Hello everyone and welcome to this webinar by Areal, sponsored by Areal, and we're very glad to be here today. I'd like to introduce you to Joana.
Hello everyone, and I would like to introduce you to Shawn.
And let's introduce everyone to Jeremy. Jeremy's a teen, a typical teen. You see him laying around on the couch, normal, isn't it? He's watching TV. He's doing his homework.
I can't see any television.
Well, it's because it's all here in this kind of device. Yeah.
Okay.
He's also says he's doing his homework and he's talking to friends. What?
Is he doing his homework? I can't see. No books.
But this is the 21st century, Joanna. Come on.
Oh, God.
Okay.
Yes, I must remember that.
So, all in all, we see something very strange. We just see a little tablet, a little screen. But we do see something that we really recognize. He says, are these people blind or something? So, of course, these sentiments that teenagers say, come on, you guys, what's going on here, is something that's always the same, no matter what generation we're in.
Yes, you're right, Shawn. And I really think that you all might know someone just like Jeremy. I think, and I'm sure that you will have lots of Jeremys inside your own classroom.
In the classroom, yeah. It's not just at home on the couch, exactly. So, let's talk about this idea of screens off and screens on. Screens off. Why do some people want to have the screens off, say no screens in my classroom?
Okay, so I think it's important for us to be aware that lots of teachers consider that following some traditional methods or methodologies in the classroom is more effective than using screens. And they might think, well, our life is full of screens, so let's not use them inside the classroom. They are not that effective. Besides that, we can face technical issues when we are using them. Or,
the internet might not work, or something could happen. And then there's the editing issues, like how do I work with this video? It's too long, for example. So there are these considerations we have to take into account.
Fortunately, we have Shawn here today who is going to give you some tips on these technical and editing issues soon. And I'm sure you will make your life a lot easier. Besides that, there's another problem, that you may consider. So some of you may think that the use of screens in the classroom may lead to separation between your students.
Staying like this, right?
Yes, that's right. A bit of individualism. So probably not the best solution.
But we have to flip it over on the other side and think about another sort of argument, which is screens on. Well, I think there's nothing that we can say that, or there's nothing that says that this is not the future of education. I think actually screens on is the future of education because it's more and more part of our lives and we have instant access to information. It's very engaging. Students really are motivated by using screens. It doesn't mean we only have to use screens, but students can be very motivated. And screens can make information very digestible, very easy to understand, and also, of course, bring English into the classroom. There's one other thing, too, about the students, too, right?
Yes, and let's go back to the idea of individualism and separation. Probably the opposite might happen. I mean, you can use the screens in your classroom as an opportunity for teamwork building. So it could be quite useful if you consider that.
That's right. So there are these two arguments to think about, but I think that the screens on argument is the stronger one. At least that's what we're going to follow today. And we're going to present to you some fun and functional viewing activities.
Let's start with fun.
Yeah, fun. We want to start off with fun. Well, the first thing is we can take pictures and screenshots. We have everything at our fingertips to take pictures and show our students of the pictures of the film clip,
And think of how appealing these can be because of the color, because of the characters that you may show if you use these screenshots or pictures.
Yes, and then there's also, of course, personal questions. So we can show these pictures and we can ask personal questions. Have you done something like this? Do you know somebody who does something like this? What do you think about this? So this is very engaging, and students, of course, like it.
And it's an opportunity that you are giving your students to actually meet real people in real life contexts.
Do you remember in the old days when we used to invite somebody to come in and we'd have the one person a semester or one person a year come in and talk to us? Well, now with videos, of course, we can bring in real people more often. And of course, this is an important thing for language teachers. Videos are very good for out-of-book activities, and we can work on vocabulary and grammar. So, and this is fun.
Yes, I think so. So it's an opportunity for students to feel that they are not using their books. It's something different. It's something that means real fun. Besides that, they are highly functional. Yeah,
so let's look at the functional side. So the first thing is we can pre-teach vocabulary. So we can, before we watch a video clip, of course, we can pre-teach vocabulary to make sure that students are going to be able to talk about what they've seen or be able to understand what they're hearing in the video. This, of course, can prepare them for real-life tasks. So bringing them out into the outside world, they will be more prepared. When I say taking them into the outside world, I mean through video.
Yes, that's right. And at the same time, they are being given opportunities in terms of language input and output, which is very important, of course.
And then, of course, there are different modalities. So you can have work in a large group setting, you can work in pairs, or you can work in small groups with these videos. And so this gives a lot of different interactions between the students, and with the students and the teacher.
Which means no individualism, no separation, no isolation. So quite the opposite.
It's teamwork, exactly. Okay, so these are the two sides of the coin, fun and functional, right?
Exactly.
Now, we have a little scheme to talk about what we have to do when we're working with a film. And the first one is we have to get them ready. We have to make students ready to watch the video, introduce them to the topic, and have them also know some of the language.
Then you want them to have fun, but you want them to be engaged at the same time.
So keep them engaged. Then we want to give them some practice. And this part means that we're going to practice actually the language that we've seen in the video, or that we've presented them, or what we want them to talk about. So, with that in mind, let's start off with pre-watching activities, which is getting them ready.
Exactly. So, let's start with the title. This is one of the things that you can start doing with your students. You can start with a title, and if the title is appealing enough, and if it has interesting words which may reveal bits of what they are going to see, you may be using the title with the purpose of previewing vocabulary.
If we really think about it, titles are carefully chosen, right? So these few words can actually say very, very much, and students can try to make some sense out of this. Of course, then there's the part of the visual aspect of videos. We can then take some screenshots of the video, and we can show some scenes and ask students, what do you think is going to happen? And this, of course, will get the conversation going and have them sort of make some predictions about what they're going to see.
You can see the ideas they have on the plot because they are able to anticipate what they are going to watch, and it will be fun because they will be trying to guess what is going to happen.
Now, there's also another thing to consider, and that is keywords. We should provide keywords that are going to appear in the text because sometimes students will lack exactly the things we want to talk about. And so if we provide them with the keywords and have them make sense of the keywords and how they could relate to some screenshots we've seen, or to tell them to watch for these things in the video, of course this is going to get them going and get them ready. And this, of course, means that we're previewing vocabulary. So now, let's go on to the second part, which is keeping them engaged.
And that means that we need to talk about while watching activities, because you want your students to be interested in the videos they are watching. So, well, you may want to start with a very simple exercise, which is related to words, simple words. So you may have your students identify the words they hear.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just as simple as giving them some silly different words that don't fit in at all and have them think about what are they hearing, and then of course making some sense of that. Of course, we can do something a little more serious, which is doing true or false statements and having them give their evaluation, whether it's true or false, and multiple choice exercises. Of course, too, we've worked with the key vocabulary. We gave a lot of key vocabulary. This would be a good time to do a gap text, to take out those keywords and have the students put the keywords back in.
So if you prepare or if you write a script with a text, and then if you remove from that script the words you consider relevant related to the topic you are teaching your students, you will be able to test their listening skills and at the same time the way they spell words. So it's a good exercise both for listening and spelling.
Now this is going on while they're watching, and students nowadays do multitask to a certain extent. So it's good to have them watch and try to do something at the same time. And so another idea that's perhaps a little simpler, but very, very useful is ordering sentences. So we can give several sentences that are related to the plot of the film or the video clip or just something that's going to happen. And we can have them try to put them in the appropriate order. And so this will mean that they're going to be really paying attention.
You can also have your students predict the plot. You can use some screenshots of scenes that you consider relevant related to the video clip, and you can have them predict what is going to happen.
Or another option is to just watch maybe 1 minute and just the first few scenes of the video, have them predict what's going to happen and try to say what they think is going to happen. And then we might get several different stories, which is interesting. And then later, compare. What did you predict with what happened? It could be very useful.
And what about the sound off, Shawn?
Oh yes, sound off. So sound off is interesting because they will be wondering, what are those people saying? What kind of sounds am I supposed to be hearing? And they will be inventing their own. So again, not again, but I mean, this really makes them think abstractly and try to make sense of what they're seeing. So, of course, we can go to a more hands-on approach, which is the last point, which is taking some notes. Of course, while we're watching, many times we should take notes of what we see.
Exactly. So they will be able. So if you use this activity at this point, you can even use it later if you want them to write a text.
Exactly right. So now, let's imagine we've already watched the video. And let's go on to after watching. And this is where we're going to really give the students some practice. Give them practice. Students can, of course, do a quiz. It could be for a grade or not. But a quiz will show that, yes, I've understood the information or I've understood what's happened in the film. We can do something a little more creative, like describe the characters.
That's right. So imagine that you want your students to learn adjectives, the use of adjectives, the order of adjectives. You want them to use the adjectives to describe personality. You want them to use adjectives to describe physical features. So this is a good exercise for you to have your students get some practice on this topic.
And this works for all levels. Another thing that works for all levels is to write a summary. Of course, a summary could be shorter or it can be longer, but at all levels we can write a sentence or two to try to summarize what we've seen. Or we, of course, could write something longer and really summarize and give kind of not a step-by-step, but a sort of an overhaul understanding of the video.
You may also want to give a personal touch in terms of what your students produce. So you can have your students, for example, write something about their favorite scene. That kind of activity will make things more personal. They might identify themselves more with what they are seeing.
And of course they'll feel valued, like their opinion matters. And so, talking about your favorite part means that, yes, somebody wants to listen. Then for upper levels, well, we have a couple options. Now, of course, it's always important to have a model. We can start off by showing a model of a film review and then have students write a film review. And of course, they're again giving their opinion. at the very end.
You organize a model that they can follow with a different film review, and then they can create their own.
There's another option after that, which is a critical essay. We all know that essays are important in every subject. In English, of course, is no different from that. But English is fun because we can always give our opinions in these kinds of things. So a critical essay could be having them evaluate how well they thought the video worked, how things were portrayed, and also some of the issues that are involved. So this kind of thing makes writing an essay much more useful, more meaningful, I would say.
You will be developing your students' critical thought, and you can help them with some prompts, with some tips. You are going to see later how you can help them.
And of course, we are practicing vocabulary and grammar as we're doing this. And that's, of course, our focus as language teachers, right? And so I think it's time for us to get on to the practical part of the session.
Yes, we have organized some examples related to some universal topics that you might want to explore, and you might want to use them at different levels. And we have chosen
Fashion, work, and the environment. Yes. And the first one we're going to look at today is?
I think it's work.
It's work. The world of work. Okay, is that an 8th grader standing there? No way. But we know that in some of the younger years, we do have to talk about work. And you might ask a student, what do you want to do with your life? What do you want to do in the future? And they might say, I have no idea. And we don't even know what the jobs are of the future. But
this is a good way for your students to think about that.
It kind of gets them outside of their self and into somebody else's shoes for just a little while and thinking about what the world will be like when they are grown up. And so today, we're going to be a little playful. We're going to bring a video in called Coin Operated. And this film, this short film, has no words actually. But we're going to see so much language going on, right?
That's right, Shawn. But before that, could you just tell us what the story is about? Just a brief summary?
Well, I suppose I can, because I'm going to look here and kind of have this as a little help for myself, which is we have a business idea happening here. We have something about going to the moon and many years passing.
Are you going to talk about NASA?
No. But there is a rocket involved. But interestingly enough, there is a lemonade stand. Okay, so are you intrigued?
What a strange combination.
It is a strange combination. And something about flicking down a visor. Why a visor? Well, I guess there must be a helmet. But what we could do now is we could talk about these phrases more in extent. Then we can instruct the students to watch the video and order these sentences as they're going through. Now, they might not have an easy time doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or anything like this. But they can be trying to focus and think about what sequence these things are in, and then later try to negotiate, try to put them really in order afterwards. Okay? So we consider this just a good way of getting them ready for watching.
That's right.
So with this in mind, we can also think of another way we can approach this.
Well, this is great. Now we have a wonderful rocket full of words, phrases, and we also have some great screenshots.
Some screenshots. And these screenshots really are speaking about different scenes of the film. And we can see the lemonade stand down there. We can also see mom and a little boy who's begging.
It looks so sad, Shawn.
Well, he does. Yeah.
Why?
Oh. Did you notice, though, the sad one is a lot older? It's not the little boy anymore.
But it's the same sad look. I wonder why.
And then, of course, we have the flicking down the visor.
We do.
So, has this got you curious?
Well, I am.
Okay.
I am. Do you think we could watch a bit of
Let's watch a bit of this. And so the instructions are this. Please watch the film. And think about some of the phrases that you've seen appearing in this rocket. I'd like you to think about in what order these have gone in, and then think about how you could explain this film afterwards. All right?
What a difficult task.
Let's do it. Did you enjoy it?
Well, what a great video. And I think after all, it wasn't such a difficult task.
No, I don't think so.
Now it will be the difficult task.
Now it's a difficult task because you've got it all in your head, right? You have it all in order, more or less, yeah?
Well, let's see. And here you have an interesting exercise that you can do, and it's useful for you to check if students really follow the story. So you can use time sequencers. For example, the ones that you have listed here are quite useful if you give them to your students and you ask them to rewrite the story.
So you have things like when he was 6 years old, first, then, later, during his life. Okay, so basically, you're giving them all of the structure for retelling the story. And remember, the rocket's there. So this rocket is giving them a lot of the core language, but they need to do a little bit of adaptation, of course, and of course fill in some blanks a little bit, right?
And they are going to be creative. They are going to be using their own words. So it will be very interesting, I'm sure.
So then the next step.
Well, now you have an empty rocket, no words at all. What are you going to do with this empty rocket, Shawn?
I'm going to have the students fill up that rocket. I'm going to have them put in things about their dream. So it's my dream. What do you think you will do in the future? What do you think would be, what do you like doing? And excuse me, how will this get you there? How will this make you get to your dream? Okay? What will you do to make your dream happen? So filling in the rocket will give them the language that they're looking for to then write their own story, right?
So it's a way for you to have them structuring the text, right?
Exactly. So basically they're inventing the ideas, but we're giving the structure.
And now we have been using word clouds, but the question is, how can you do that? So fortunately, we have Shawn with us, and he's going to give you some great tips on this.
So you might have seen before there's this URL called wordclouds.com. And wordclouds.com is just one of the sites out there that's free that we can use. And we can then put in the language that we want to use. For example, we go in there and we edit the different words, and we put in also, of course, we give the shapes, we give the colors, and we can also think about what direction we want these words to go into. I really like to do these on paper because then the students can do things like this. They can turn it around and they can look around and try to make sense of what order everything's trying to be in. And with word clouds, well, it's very easy to do. And as you see, you just type in these words and it gives you a wonderful result. So that's tech tip number 1.
Thank you so much, Shawn.
Let's go on then to the next topic, which is
well, let's talk about fashion.
Fashion. And we've got here a young girl. What? She's, the one in the center is the one that's important, right, Joanna?
She's quite young, yes, and she's very important. And she is on the catwalk. I wonder what she's doing over there.
Well, she's not modeling.
Isn't she?
No, she's not. And the title here, we should talk about the title. 11-year-old fashion designer launches her first collection.
Oh.
So she's the fashion designer. She's not the actual model. So
she's 11. God.
She's 11. So let's get the students ready by using some screenshots. We could just give them several scenes from the video and have them make some sort of sense out of it. For example, there's a drawing over there. A drawing of one of the fashion designs, right? One of the gowns, one of the dresses that they're going to wear. We're using vocabulary. Did you notice that?
Yes, quite useful. If you want to talk about clothes and accessories, you might want to start with this.
And of course, you see her doing some work. So this is actually related to the topic we were just talking about. We've got a young girl who has started her own business, and she's designing clothes, right? And then of course we've got the models. So we're talking about clothes, we're talking about work, and it's quite interesting.
That's right. So you are anticipating fashion-related words, and you might also anticipate some words your students might not know. For example, to sew, sewing machine.
Also, of course, we're bringing real people into the classroom. Do you notice that? We're also providing role models, and I think these two points are really important. Now, let's work with the language. Let's keep the students engaged while doing it. And do you want to tell us how you work with multiple choice, Joanna?
Well, multiple choice exercises can be easily done, and they are quite interesting if you want to practice different types of vocabulary related to the topic you want to discuss with your students. For example, if you look at these 4 exercises, you will find fashion-related jobs. You are going to have the reference to some clothes and accessories. You have the reference to some events which may happen in the life of a professional.
And I must say that these can really generate discussion. It's not just multiple choice, because afterwards when you look through them, if somebody doesn't pay attention, they might say that she's actually a young fashion photographer and not the actual fashion designer, which was my case.
Please notice the young, and please notice the photographer.
Okay, so it's something to keep them engaged while they're watching, but afterwards we can have a bit of discussion from these kinds of activities. Now, another thing that we can do is consider giving them some practice. And after watching, we can give them some prompt cards in which they have to talk about some different things, right?
That's right. They can speak about their shopping habits, for example, or, which is quite useful too, you can use prompt cards so that you can have your students role-playing dialogues at a clothes shop, for example.
So give them the things that they have to do. They have to ask for maybe a dress or some pants or some jeans or something like this. And then, of course, there's the negotiation that goes on. That's the interesting part. Or you can have a class discussion in which they have to talk about something maybe a little more serious, like, for example, the difference between high street shops and shopping centers and how this affects us as consumers, how it affects our economy, and how it affects, of course, the life in the cities.
I suppose this would be very interesting for older students.
Older students, yeah. So it's a springboard, sort of, to get into a more complex topic, I think. Then, of course, we have to think about how we do some of these things, right, Joanna?
Yes, we have been talking about screenshots, and once again, I will ask Shawn to help us.
Okay, tech tip number 2, screenshots. So I have 2 different things here, 2 different instructions, I should say. One is the Snipping Tool, which is an app that's on your computer if you have a PC, if it's an older one, or Snip and Sketch if you have a newer computer, like Windows 10 or something like this. These 2 functions, you have to look for them. They're in your tools in your computer. Look for them. And it's very easy to take these pictures, and it's very effective, I think. Now, if you have a Mac, it's a little bit harder. And I have to look at my little notes here. It's Shift-Command-3 if you want to take some screenshots, or Shift-Command-4 is the one I like to use. These are 2 options that you have. Now, please write them down because they will be useful for you. And that's tech tip number 2.
Well, thank you again, Shawn. Now let's talk about the environment, our third universal topic, and which is very important.
Very, very important. I mean, we can see that there are 2 sides to the environment. There are some more beautiful sort of pictures, and then of course there are the natural disasters that we're facing these days, right? And our first topic, or our topic, is young climate activists. And once again, we can talk about that title, can't we?
That's right. Both the title and the picture.
Yeah, because
we can realize that it's not only about Greta.
no, it's about other people too.
There are more people doing the same.
Young people are speaking out in this world. This is, of course, another great role model, isn't it?
Yes, and if you look attentively at the picture, I think we could say it screams diversity and multiculturalism, which means that we need to understand that this is a problem the entire world is facing.
And we have to do it together.
Yes.
So to get them ready, well, one of the things that we've been talking about is you can, of course, look at the title. You can do the screenshots. You can also talk about topics like climate change, what students know about it, and about climate activism and what they could know about this topic. That's to approach it. Now, there's another thing we can do.
Well, once again, and because of the relevance of the topic and the several environmental issues that you are obviously going to mention, you can use all these screenshots in order to anticipate important vocabulary and have your students discuss all these problems.
Yeah, this would be some of the vocabulary from our unit, right? So let's see some real scenes and then talk about those and see if we can describe them, explain, and use the vocabulary of them, of course. So then from there, of course, we can go on and watch the video clip, and we will keep the students engaged.
And how can we do that? Well, this is an example of an exercise which is quite easy to prepare, and that has to do with minimal pairs and typical mistakes. So you can pick the words you consider relevant, focusing on the top you are discussing, and you can using the words you need if you want to develop the topic and if you want to call your students' attention to some details.
To details, exactly. So you have to listen very carefully so that they can choose the right word. And of course, they're thinking about the meaning in the context too, not just what's happening in their ear. So I think there's a lot to be said for this. Also, of course, you can call attention afterwards to those typical mistakes that students do make. There's another one, of course, which is doing gap fills, and have students really listen carefully for language involved. So you can either do the minimal pairs and mistakes or the gap fill, and both are quite easy to make and useful. Now, what about afterwards?
Well, once again, you can go back to screenshots, but this time with important quotes.
This one is very rich in quotes, isn't it?
It is, and you can use them if you want to have your students speak about the topic and discuss these environmental issues and all these problems, and eventually discuss solutions too.
Yeah, so this is a lot to speak about. Of course, we can do a lot of writing with this too. And the interesting idea is to create an online magazine and write articles about these or little commentaries about these, perhaps blogs about these, so that students can give their opinions and talk about solutions for these problems. So that really will, again, create that teamwork and make a feeling of unity in the classroom.
And they will be practicing.
Definitely. So, shall we go on to tech tip number 3?
Yes, that's right, Shawn. We must talk about the way of getting these scripts to make life easier. Because when you are watching a video clip, you can pay attention to the video clip, you can write at the same time. But, well, I think Shawn is going to tell us about an easier way to do this.
So tech tip number 3 takes us to YouTube. And you open up the video, of course, and you look around for the 3 little dots. You click on the 3 little dots and you'll see Open Transcript. Open up that transcript and what you'll find is, well, it's kind of a very good script, but it has some errors sometimes. But copy and paste all of that script and you can put that in Word and then you'll do your spell check and you'll do the editing. And that's when you start taking out words and changing words and having a little fun with it. But this tech tip makes it so that you don't have to sit and listen so carefully for all of those words. You can actually just start with something that's pretty good and perfect it and then make it into your classroom activity. So that's tech tip number 3.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we saw those. And let's sum up.
Well, as you can see, these activities and this use of videos or video clips in the classroom are very important, not only for language input, but also
Language output. Yeah, because they're speaking a lot, they're writing a lot. And of course, we can lead them into using the language, practicing the language in a controlled way. We aren't just saying talk about it, but we're actually giving them some tangible things that's going to help them be able to really use the language in a good way.
while developing their listening comprehension skills at the same time.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So we've kind of mixed together today some that had a lot of good text and a lot of good language in them. And we brought in some too that had no language, but the students will have to do some talking about it. So to really sum up, we think that videos can be good for all levels. They're not only developing listening skills, but also
Develop writing skills, speaking skills.
they're authentic, they're up to date,
They get students engaged. They can be highly motivating.
and for sure, they don't have to take a lot of work. So videos are visual, they stimulate memory,
They promote engagement and they train the English ear.
yeah, they train the English ear. So we want you to think about these because they are all of that, and they are fun, and of course
They are functional, as you now know.
So this brings us to the end. But we want to say that we have a lot of links for you to explore. Not only these, but other videos that we think that we've picked out and we think would be really good in your classrooms. We hope that you found this very useful, and we want to thank again Areal for having us today.
So we hope this will be useful and that you can make all the Jeremies that you have in your classrooms very happy and engaged.
And we really hope to see you again.
Bye-bye.
Bye.